So for starters, let me say, wow, I try to not be biased with a lot of these topics, and some are just for fun, and but when it comes to this topic, I am very biased, and I can't hide it. The idea of families being torn apart with deportation it's a mixture of absurd and disgusting. But outside of the action itself, which I think is horrendous, I think it's something that we're not really discussing, is the mentality of the people who support it. And this is by no attack, it's just observation. It is what it is. So the part that stands out to me is the shift of ideas where people feel they can dictate the lives and outcomes of other people. Mind you, we're talking about neighbors, classmates, co-workers. I found it startling that according to a few surveys done in 2022 and 2023, it showed that almost half of Americans, including 85% of Republicans and 25% Democrats, believe that it supported the notion or idea of mass deportation. And being honest, when it comes to picking leadership, immigration, for whatever reason, was a huge topic. I'm going to be very blunt and honest. I don't understand the severity of the situation. And maybe I need to read and be more educated, but I don't understand why I'm a more of a stay in your lane type person. So I don't understand why somebody's citizen status matters to others so deeply. And the fact that so many people actually support mass deportation is very creepy. But I don't think it stems from even the idea of immigration. I honestly believe that people have a natural desire to want to dictate and control or deputize others. That's why slavery was so prevalent around the world. At the time we focus on certain groups, but in reality, slavery has been a thing. It's different versions of it, different severities, different punishments, different concentrations of it. But the notion of people controlling other people has always been appealing since the existence of man. So it is funny that we incorporate these ideas and notions even in our systems as kids. I mean, you remember the hall monitor.
And without a moment to spare, I will put on this uniform and assume my duties as hall monitor.
Cadets, lunchroom stars, and there's always these small levels of people who I remember watching the personalities change when you have a regular student and all of a sudden you're a hall monitor and they just become like this dictator of the halls, giving out occurrences and demerits and all of that. But and same thing when we become adults, co-workers, when you have a regular co-worker that becomes a manager or a supervisor. Come on, let's talk about it. People have seen it like, they switched up. Now they writing up and doing this, and we feel that you're not doing. Like, what? You was coming late with me. But seriously though, you see the change in the personality. It's like, where does that come from? There was an experiment done in August of 1961, the Milgram Project. Many people have heard of it, where they conducted an experiment where they had an electric machine and, well, I'll let the video explain.
Answer, wrong. 150 volts. Answer, horse.
The Milgram experiment was a study conducted by psychologist Stanley Milgram at Yale University. The experiment was meant to test how far a person would stray away from their own morals when being told to by an authority figure. They would invite men between the ages of 20 to 50 to participate in what they thought was an unrelated experiment on the effectiveness of electric shocks when trying to improve a person's memory. Under the guise of being an assistant rather than a subject in the experiment, the participant would be set at a table with the fake machine meant to control the shocks. They would then be given orders to administer shocks to the fake subject, when told to do so by the instructor. As the experiment would carry on, they would be told to slowly increase the power of the shocks, to levels that would have been fatal if real. In almost all cases, they would continue until the machine was put on its highest setting. Many of them would raise questions or concerns as they upped the ampage, but they almost always continued with very little encouragement.
There was another experiment done 10 years after, in 1971, in August as well, at Stanford University, the Stanford experiment, which had prisoners. They had regular students. Basically, they created an imaginary or a joking version almost of a prison-to-prisoner relationship, and within the course of a week or 2 weeks, it became real. Like, the mental of the leadership started punishing and tormenting prisoners, again, fellow students and regular people. They start like punishing them for real. So there it seems like there's this part of our human psyche that once given authority, we dive into what I would call the deputy civilian syndrome, or DPS, or DCS. I'll edit that. Yeah, DCS. I need to learn my letters. But basically, where it's almost like we've seen it with ushers and nurses in church, and so many people, when somebody is given a power or authority over another person or a group of people, there's this caste attitude and this caste identity of who deserves privilege and who doesn't. And sadly, in our country, though we've had that dynamic, the creepy part is it's migrated into who deserves to be in the country and who doesn't, which is very interesting because historically everyone knows there's only one original people on this particular plot of land, and it's like, and those aren't the ones who are trying to dictate who's here and who's not. That is crazy. And it's like, where does this come from and why do we have it? Is it racism? Is it privilege? I'd argue that you can actually mix it in a bowl of all of the above. And it could be culturalism or ethnocentrism. The idea that one's identity and ethnicity is superior to those around them. Wow. And it's completely void of compassion. And it's like, what? Because it's like, okay, ICE, the idea of being comfortable with taking people out of their homes, and the part that gets me, I actually looked up, like where did they even find the immigration information? Who do you know? So I wanted to go back to something that I said. So basically, like, I mentioned how it's like, how do people even find out about who's an immigrant and who's not? But according to the actual immigration website and other sources, it shows, wow. So ICE gets information by basically breaching databases and files. So almost like black web stuff to get information, and once they get the information, they a lot of times go to the actual houses and do what is considered a ruse. They make up any lie to basically get people into public and arrest them. I'm like, so even the word, notice the language that I'm using. It's manipulation. We're talking lying and delving into files and all of this to get people. And it's like, and I think the biggest ruse is, well, they're bringing in drugs. And it's like, well, two things. The majority, and that's based on USA Facts and as well as some other websites, the majority of people are not bringing drugs. And even if they were, the clientele is in the country. The drugs don't have potency unless people are buying them. And they're not getting high on their own supply. So that's more of a reflection of us than them. If you got a problem, come see me. Let's talk. Or whatever. You can't whoop me. People are, for starters, the part that really stands out to me also is we are being, I would argue in a sense, desensitized to the notion that immigration, number one, is an issue, when in reality, immigration numbers have actually been on a steady decline or a trending decline since 2007, with a slight spike between 2021 and 2022. So right after COVID. But still trending downward. So it was a bigger issue over 10 years ago, and yet we treat it like it's like plaguing issue or idea. The other part is the groups of people who are immigrants. Though there's this connotation or stereotype of Mexicans and Latin Americans, the majority of immigrants in our country by far is actually Asians. Actually double the amount of Hispanics and triple of pretty much every other group. And they come for education, other groups come for work, and et cetera, et cetera. But yet we're formulated to believe that because a certain group is given this stereotypical flag or stereotyped flag of illegal immigration or illegal immigrant, it deputizes us to determine if they should be here or not. Bluntly put, that's not our lane.
Lane positioning also includes staying in the center of your lane when you're driving forward.
Many people are here to get citizenship. Actually, if you go to the immigration or citizenship website, one of the first pieces of criteria is you need to have an address here. Oh my God, that bothers me to my core. In order to become a citizen, you have to be here. So why would you trip about people being here? I'm gonna try to maintain some composure, but not really, because that's trash. Like, again, it's not really our lane. Like, I don't understand what they're taking jobs. You don't care about jobs being taken. Like, let's not play that. Like, the reality is you like the power to determine who belongs somewhere and who doesn't. Anytime somebody is given even a little bit of power, especially people who don't have power in their regular life, it's like, oh, I have the power to determine who deserves and who doesn't because somebody did it to me. And sadly, that's buffoonery. And we need to be honest about our gauges and need to be honest about our psyche. And our psyche likes to be superior. That's what it is. People like to be in charge. That's why the hall monitor, I like the privileges and duties and get to eat in the adult lunchroom and all of that. I was never a monitor. But, or the AV kid that can roll the TV, you can interrupt him in class. I can roll the TV. It's the same thing. But it's just interesting that in 2025, it's almost like a regression of compassion and a regression of maturity. In short, immigration ain't your lane. If you're a citizen, shut up. Do you? Water. Doggone it. Play about water.
I keep it way too raw. Them seen too many things to swallow.